Streaming software channel does not match. Okay, that's not good. This and try again. Okay, well, sorry, my stuff is working weird here, so let me just log in and see what is happening. I go to youtube.com. I guess this is a test video, so please ignore it. Tangent stream. I haven't done one of these in forever, so let's see. Maybe I'll edit this. Oh, I'm live. Okay, so I don't know why. So I got some error when I saw. Okay, so sorry about that. And sorry, my video is all screwy. Camera's dead, and I haven't done these in forever. I can't find the charger and whatever. I'm on my backup camera. Okay, so this is a quick video. I wanted to show something that I'm working on. Not my own. So let's see. Let's go to the Greencast. So this is Claude. Claude is one of these AI agents. If you have never seen one of these, I'm going to give you a very quick demo. Basically, if you've seen ChatGPT, this is very similar. But you can go to any one of these systems. There are maybe 5 or 6 big ones, and many small ones. And you can go up to them and you can just ask them to do something. So what day is it or something. And it'll ask you, it'll respond to you in English, and then you can have a conversation with it. So great. So it knows what day it is. And then you can say, like, make a game, make Pong, right? And it'll make a little version of this game, and it'll stick it right here in the browser for you. And it's just doing this, right? So it can generate hundreds of lines of code and all this stuff. So if you didn't know this exists, and it's relatively new within the past few years, past two or 3 years, I guess. And within the past year, it's become useful, and within the past 6 months, it's become really useful. And so now we're getting to the point where, like, you can actually use this, and people are worrying about whether they're going to lose their jobs. My suspicion is no, for reasons you're going to see. All right, so anyway, so while this is working, we'll come back. Oh, there it is. So we'll just play it real quick. So we can go up and down. So W and S. That's not how I'm on a Dvorak keyboard. Arrow up and arrow down do not seem to work. Arrows don't work. So we can say that arrows don't work. We can give it feedback like this, and it'll try and correct it. So the W, S, and D did move that thing up and down. And you can. So now it's going to restart. Anyway, so you're this is a very impromptu lesson, okay, or talk here. Sorry. Let me just kind of what I'm getting at. So anyway, these things exist. I've been using them, and they also can be embedded in your editor. So I've been using this thing called Cursor now. You can get the fork of Visual Studio Code. You can get something from GitHub called GitHub Copilot that goes in the main thing. They're very similar. Cursor seems to be a little bit nicer, but I mostly switch back and forth because of which of these models they have access to. Can't really see it; it's under my head, but switch these around. I'll just move it to the left or something. It's slow. But you can see, like, this one has Gemini. Gemini is something from Google. Claude is the one that we're talking to, and the other thing is from a company called Anthropic. O3 and O4 Mini are from ChatGPT, OpenAI, and so there's different models. You can set these up. Grok is the one from X, Twitter, and they have different levels of compatibility with these tools, and so a lot of people are using Cursor right now. Cursor seems to be one of the most popular ones of these editors, and if you don't know what they do, you can say, give me a quick summary of this file. Summary of this file, and it's talking about trio.py, which is some Python file in my system, right? Of this file. What the heck is it? Right? And then it'll go and figure it out. It can tell you about the code that it's looking at. This is the experimental version of Gemini. So that's it's thinking in the background. And now it's going to say this Python script sets up a command line interface using argparse. Okay, blah blah blah. This is not very useful. Well, to be fair, this is not a very. It's doing something with a very small program that is literally this line, and I mean it doesn't know much about it. But if you ask it, say, well, look in this directory and give me more context. Give me more context. What's this about? Right? So it only looked at that one file. So now it's going to, dig out a little bit. And so it has the ability to look at your files, right? So this is what makes it an agent, right? So down here you can just, over here you're just talking to it, and it happens to have this little canvas that it can, draw things on. Work, by the way. Yeah. So now we have both of these work. Horrible set of keys for maybe if I switch over to. Yeah. Okay, so now I can do it with the. There you go. So I just asked it to make this game, and it made this game, right? So hopefully it's keeping score. Okay. So it's that easy, right? To generate code now, but we have no idea if this code is any good, whatever. And if you're making a quick game demo, who cares? But if you're, would you trust your enterprise code to this? Probably not. And so you want to review it carefully. And so that's what this thing allows you to do. So let's, so finally it's going to tell me, I'm switching back and forth a lot, right? So this is kind of leading up to the point I'm trying to make, that when you use these things, they're a little bit slow. I mean, they're way faster than you sitting there typing it yourself. But there's some downtime, right? And to avoid dead air, I have this tendency to switch back and forth. Dead air on this video, but also just dead air, just wasting time. It's just, sometimes it's fun to sit and watch it, but it's easier to just switch back and forth. You get used to it, just having these things have a lag, right? And so while you have some downtime in your mental state, it does its thing, and then you can switch over to some other task, and that's what I call juggling. I'm sure other people have other names, multitasking or whatever, but I feel like I'm juggling these different AI agents as I go. And I, kind of like what I'm doing now, I don't really necessarily read all this stuff. It doesn't matter what this is. This is this dumb little utility file inside of a directory that has something to do with databases, project I'm working, which I'll talk about some other time. But okay, so now you can tell it to do something. You want to change this code. Well, let's switching from Dvorak. Let's you can't even see what I said. Let's make. I know you can't see this, but let's make this these commands uppercase, and just see what it does. And it remembers the context of what file you're in, and it's going to go make these changes, and it's pretty cool. And so now this is the API, the external AI that's out in the cloud somewhere has come back over text and said this is what needs to change. And I don't know if you saw it, but it said existing code with some dots, and the cursor is smart enough to take that text and parse it and figure out how to actually apply it to your code, and then you can go through and review each line by line. So this is how you know if you can trust it or not, because you can see if it did the right thing. So that's what it should do. So in the arg parser, the argument parser for the command line, it should definitely do those things. I'm not an expert at this editor. I've been using Emacs for years and PyCharm, and I just been using this more because of the these agents. PyCharm is still my favorite, but it's really slow. I can barely run it now because of this stuff. Anyway, on this machine. Anyway, so that's right. So I say, yes, I want that. And then here I say, well, yeah, it updated these. So I say, yes, I want that. And there you go. Now it's changed on my system. So what I was saying is that the thing that makes it an agent is that it has the ability to reach out into the world and change things. And you can actually give it like new abilities, like you could write your own little API and tell it about the API, and it'll be able to use it. And so it has agency. It can also like continue to work and give itself tasks to do if you let it. I tend to keep it on a pretty short leash and just keep watching what's going on. Anyway, so that's Cursor. There's a very similar one called GitHub Copilot, which I think is free for basic use, for like some rate limited use. This one I think is $20 a month. There's one called Klein that is a plugin for GS Code that for VS Code that is. It also gives you access to this, and this particular model is both very good, and with the EXP experimental at this particular moment, it's free. I can't see what I'm saying, but it's Gemini 2.5 Pro experimental. And they are starting to charge for it, and you get like faster response, but free. Whereas the subscription for, I think Cursor itself is like, I think $20 a month. GitHub Copilot's about $20 a month. And then if you want faster than the rate limits they allow, you can use your so this in the terminal is in the web browser is also about, I think, $20. I think this is free. I think I'm not currently paying for the subscription of this. ChatGPT is again $20 a month, or $20 if you want like the extra stuff, whatever. Anyway, you pay a monthly fee for these kinds of services, and you get like rate limited. But you can also use the API directly, and you give it like you download a little key, plug it in, and then you can get much faster results, and you can get like unlimited results. Right? Okay, so that's enough about that. If there's anything, I'll just go through these real quick, see what's going on. So this is just an example of something I'm using this for. I had some Godot code that parses chess stuff. I make chess animations sometimes as a demo for the thing I'm working on, which is an animation tool. And so I gave it that code, and it is very good at like porting that code from one language to another. This is another one of the chess things that does all these annotations and draws the board and all that stuff. Obviously, it needs some better sprites. This is something I was working on today, and you can see you just have a little conversation with it. Same thing right here in the web. Gemini has the same kind of thing that Claude does. I believe this is also free if you just go to your. This may not be free. I don't know, but you can go to gemini.google.com, and some of them are free, I think. And if you want more stuff, you may have to pay for it. I think this actually is free, so you can get code here. But after a while, in fact, that's what happened. After a while, I got rate limited, and so I wasn't allowed to use it anymore. And so I pasted it into Cursor. So I'm using all these different tools kind of simultaneously. And so this I was working on something for. This is the project. It has supposed to have a list of databases here, but maybe this particular version, which you'll see in a minute, doesn't have the database hooked up. This is something I was working on that came out today. And it's on, I think. Again, it doesn't show that you're seeing that, but maybe. The broadcasting software is not picking it up, but it plays the maple leaf rag for a second. Anyway, this is the output of my animation program. The actual sprite is made by Kenny NL's avatar creator. It's an open source thing, but you can generate these little characters, and then they have the walk cycle. And what I did is I put that little sprite, which is an image file, into my system and generated that. It generated this MP4 file, right? So that's what my system is doing, and I've had several attempts at that, but so I've been writing scripts by hand and compiling all these things by running commands, by hand, and then slowly turning them into scripts. And so what I had the AI working on today was to make, to improve the script that generated this. And what it does is add background music that you can't hear. So incorporating audio into the, and also a bunch of other workflow improvements. So while I was doing that, I was able to do this simultaneously, which was to take, again, you can't see it. I can probably fix this if I go to, it should be here on 5,000. You can see the, you can see I'm doing some, oh, okay, this is broken in the middle. If we go to localhost, host 5,000. Hopefully this will work. You can see I'm running multiple versions of this application, and that's also what I'm leading up to here. So yeah, so we have this. This is my text. These are input lines, and then as you do this, you're able to. Oh well, something is broken here too. Oh no, it's not. It is definitely broken. All right. Well, there should be a text terminal over here, and as you scroll things back and forth, you can. But this is not a demo of this. Point is, I'm working on this. Things are breaking, and I'm working on lots of different parts of it in parallel, and that's a mess if you're in one IDE, right? One editor. All right. So, I guess what I was going to show was the actual point I was making. Oh. Oops. Okay, the whole screen just went white. I don't know what you can see. Am I crashing? Hello, testing. Okay, I don't know what just happened there. My screen went white, and did I open a new browser? I think I closed the browser, didn't I? So it was localhost. Localhost 5,000. You can see if you saw any of my glamorous toolkit videos, you might recognize this kind of interface. I spent a lot of time borrowing ideas from them. That slides back and forth. Again, not a demo of this. Anyway, but this is an outline, and you can barely see it, but like these are very slightly indented into this, and obviously that's not a very good. It's not very clear that this is an outline, right? And so the thing I was working on today, while one thread was running, making the rendering service for this thing, the other one was making this, which is, if we actually view the source, I'll show it one way here. You can see it's got a script here. It's got all these fancy HTML things that are making these open up and close, and then you have little dots you can barely see and lines and all this stuff, and it looks, in my opinion, very nice. And it took me many iterations to do this, but the AI actually did the work. But the way this particular thing works, if you look at this, you can see it's very complicated. It has all these expanded. It's got these. Didn't see the before and after in the code, but you see span class equals toggle and all this stuff. It's got infrastructure built onto it. And the way I prototyped this, at least, was if you hit Control U, you see your source code. This is the actual code of that page. Right? And so this is very small. It doesn't have all that stuff in it. And the magic is there's a style sheet right here that is transforming this very simple XML, which is called XOXO, which is an outline format in XHTML. Very simple. A lot of outlining tools use this. And then what I wanted to do is render it as a nice, pretty, interactive HTML thing. So again, the AI made this for me, and it made it as a in fact, that's what I was talking to Gemini here in like this third window here. It made this XSLT, and so XSLT is the thing that transforms XML from one format to another, and so it's like a template, right? And this is like I don't know. It's a weird way to do things. But it's built into the browser, and I was just playing with it just to see if it could work. I probably will not use XSL in my actual application, but that doesn't matter because these tools give you the ability to try out. The LLMs give you the ability to try out lots of new tools and do things that you're not necessarily familiar with. I actually worked at on an application where XSLT was the main rendering engine like 20 years ago. Literally 20 years ago, 2006 or so, 2005. And that was probably the last time I used it. Maybe once or twice, but like it's not very commonly used anymore. And yet back then we had to write, it was all done on the back end and everything, but it's like in your browser and anyway, whatever. Point is, this technology is there, and I was just saying, well, hey, could you actually use this to render it? That's an XML file. Can you transform it and just have it display in the browser so that it looks nice when you load it up? And so the browser is just doing that. It just that one line that said apply this style sheet is turning that very simple HTML into this nice interactive thing. The style sheet itself is doing that, but that's powered by them. There's no frameworks or anything. It's just built into web technology, and nobody uses it because it wasn't very good 20 years ago, and then people moved away from XML and whatever. So I don't know. It's their complete tangent. This is not what I'm not what I'm talking about today. Except that this is what I was working on, right? So I know that I can take this design and tell it to port this over to pure JavaScript interaction. I can tell it to use like a tool like D3 or Vue or React or whatever to render the same kind of thing using to do it incrementally. Like basically it's like this is fine the way it is, but if you wanted to do it like as the outline is changing, if you wanted to constantly re-render, supposedly it's slow. I may just try it. I don't think it's gonna be that slow, but there's a lot more work involved in like deleting all these things, and so you want a smarter tool for that. We'll see. And also it's just it's weird. People, I don't even find XSLT all that readable. But again, it doesn't matter. The tool can do it, right? So the tool has that knowledge. It's out there. You can play with it, and then you can just tell, hey, I don't like this. Let's port it to Vue. Let's port it to pure vanilla JS or whatever, meaning just plain JavaScript. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing that I'm working on, and all of this was to lead up to the idea. 22 minutes in to lead up to the actual topic of this thing, which is that I made this little because I've been doing this for a while. And because like jumping back and forth between windows is crazy, and because this is a web application, like say you want to make two things, well, like you have to be very careful that they're not overwriting the same files if you only have one dev environment. So like how do you run multiple dev environments? Well, you could spin them up in the cloud and open up remote terminals, which that's actually how we worked at the last place I worked. We'd have a remote desktop, and I would just log in. But I don't have the budget to run. Maybe I could. I guess it's not that expensive. It only costs a couple cents an hour to run these things. But I would prefer to have a perfectly good machine sitting across the room from me, a little Mac Mini, and it can run many copies of this thing. It's very, very tiny. And so the only thing is they need to be running on different ports, and I don't really like having multiple like IDE, like jumping around through windows like this and saying like, where was I talking about this particular, where was I making the Pong game, and where was I doing something else? Like, if you don't need to, well, if you don't need to see it like this, well, let me back up. Like this is kind of cool for like a rapid prototype, but it's not an IDE. You can't go edit. You can edit the code, but it's just not a tool for developers. It's a tool for like trying something out, getting a quick prototype, seeing your idea on the screen, and then you can read it and copy and paste it into a real tool for developing. There are some. There actually is a tool like if you want to do that online, you can do Replit.com is one. Oops, no. Yeah, okay. I actually have that. I'm sorry, I have this one, and I'm not going to demo this today. And there's another one called po.com, which a friend of mine works at, and It has both the chat stuff and 11 Labs as an audio generator. Like so many things in here. I asked it to make a pixel sprite editor. Well, I tried to make a magic eye diagram. That didn't work so well. But a pixel sprite editor, this is, worked, right? I made this. All I said, this is literally what I said. This purple line is mine. Make a pixel art sprite editor, and it did all the rest of that work. I gave it, doesn't look like I gave it any feedback whatsoever. So the entire thing was generated. This entire concept, it figured out it needed a fill and it needed colors and all this. I think is pretty cool. And then Replit is similar to this. This one is actually completely free, or at least it was when I tried it. And then you can pay once you run out of credits or whatever, but you get like a free amount. Replit might be that way too, but I pay $20 for Replit as well. Anyway, this is what I'm working on. Okay, enough of that. So bottom line, I made this thing, and let me kind of try and be a little more specific about what things I made and what things I did not make. So this is, this right here, this whole thing is a window called Putty. It's a Windows program that is a console emulator. Like an old school console with text and whatnot. What you're seeing here. It is creating a secure shell connection to a Mac Mini across the room, which is named Mentalk after a famous mind taker from the Harvey Birdman series. This little green line at the bottom is a screen, like a what? Oh, sorry. We're running a program called tmux, which is a terminal multiplexer inside the terminal. So when I log in, log out of that. When I log in, this is what I get. I logged in as the username Codex on this Mentalk machine, and there's a bunch of stuff. You can see it's a very Mac-like. And I installed this program called tmux, which a lot of people use in the shell. Sometimes I have trouble with this, so I force it to use Unicode with tmux/u, and then I force it to use 256 colors. Sometimes it does. You don't need this. Sometimes you do. And then you say you want to attach to the session that's already there, and then you get back to right where you are. And if we say ls, wait, let's see, ls detach, and then when I run that again, like I'm going to reattach to that screen that was already there. So it keeps that terminal running like as long as you want it, right? This is a program called tmux. It also lets you split it in half. You can split windows vertically and so on. And then at the bottom here, you can see that you can switch between two windows. So this was originally up, and then I switched it over here. So this section of Windows is a tmux session, and the name of that session is *swarm. Okay. The reason that it's named Swarm is because it's in a project called tangentswarm. I don't know who I am. I go by the name tangentswarm online, and so as a silly pun, I made tangentswarm. Okay, so tangentswarm is a application, and what it does, I can ask you, what is this application? Right? So, and you can see that over here we have another one of these agents running. This is actually Claude again. This is the same guy that we're up here. And they have this tool that runs in your console. And you can see it's all text-based, and you can, if you're using tmux, you can scroll up and see all the things that I've talked about with it in this particular session. This is new to me. Maybe it looks like it was an hour ago. Oh, okay, maybe. I've never seen that thing up there before. Yeah, but you can also just scroll up with your mouse. Anyway, so you can see that it's presented me with a diff, like these lines are lines it's removing and lines it's adding, as I asked it to change something in this tool, with the tool you haven't seen yet. So the tool I'm adding is called Swarm, and what it does, or tangentswarm, is it creates the tmux session. Right, so this is Claude running in tmux. This is external code. This is just the normal shell with a little fancy prompt that I asked Claude to make for me. And this is just what right now what you're seeing is what tmux does. And so what I do, what I've done, what I've added, is this program called Swarm. What does it do? Let's see. So tangentswarm is a developer productivity tool that helps you manage multiple Git branches across different repositories. That's true. It creates separate tmux sessions for each branch with unique port numbers. Right. And the key features are it automatically clones repositories and checks out branches. Yep. It creates tmux sessions with customizable layouts. Yep. And it assigns unique ports to each branch for running services. It actually assigns a block of ports for running services, and that configures proper Git tracking. Yep. And it uses simple session naming with port branch format. It is particularly designed to assign each branch to a separate AI agent like Claude Code, which is what you're running here, allowing you to work on multiple features simultaneously with AI assistance. This tool, or the tool, handles port assignment, directory creation, and yeah, it's kind of redundant, but there you go. All right, so what I do is I run Swarm, and I tell it which repo I want. So the repos are configured in this swarm.yaml file, and you can also see that I have them all checked out into the actual dev. So this is the repo for the swarm. I guess you would say git remote v. So it's tangentswarm on GitHub, and this is the main branch here. And then these are all things that are not part of the distribution, right? And so these are all things that I've checked out. I've checked out a thing called Open Code Platform is the thing I'm working on that you've been seeing all this time. Reconciled is another project I've had for a long time. And then a swarm.yaml is the configuration. And so what a YAML is just like JSON file or something. It's just data, right? So this is a dictionary that's mapping this key, and this key. So these three names, which are all GitHub repositories. So if you go to github.com and go to tangent code platform, you actually can't see it because it's a private repository, but it has all these branches. And then we're going to map them to these ports. So they're always a block of 10 ports. And then what it wants to do is when you check out one of these branches, it's going to make a directory called like platform.avo item list should be here. Platform.avo item list, it is there. And then it's going to launch tmux, another tmux session. So again, a tmux session is a collection of these windows, and if you press whatever the key is, I have it bound to Control R, but I think it's Control A for most by default. And then you press, that's the prefix, and then you press S, and you get a list of all the sessions that are running, and then you can switch between them. And so these are as if you had multiple terminals, that contain all these things running. So I can switch. I actually don't have that running, but I have these other branches running, right? And if I want to run it, what I do is I say, I say swarm, and then because this is the first one, it's the default, so I don't actually have to say what the repo name is, but I could call it platform, and then I say AVO item list. And then when I press enter, it's going to say, well, it sees that directory, and so it's going to launch a new tmux session for me, and it's going to put me in there as soon as I press enter. There we go. So it fired up Claude, and in this little window, I've got Claude, and I just got it like a shell. By default, it ran git status to show me what is actually changed in this directory. So it looks like there's a stray database lying around. There's some changes were made to package.lock.json, or actually this is not tracked, and maybe it should be in the git ignore file. I've got a stray file that it generated for me called DOM item list, which is that outline thing, or it's at least a take on that outline thing. And then I've got a spec for the undo ability. So this is what I'm working on in this AVO item. AVO is the audiovisual outliner, kind of the code name for this thing I'm making, which again I'll talk about some other time. But then also over here, it ran these things. So it started this program called Vite. Vite is a TypeScript or JavaScript piece of infrastructure, I guess. It basically watches all your files, compiles them, and like does all the building and bundling and keeps everything up to date, so that as you change a file, you don't have to refresh your web pages and so on. They just kind of automatically refresh. And then over here is so basically this is the front end of my application, and this is the back end. So this is like the logs of the server, and you can see that all these things are running. So we have these. This is JavaScript front end stuff over here, TypeScript stuff front over here, and then Python back end over here. And you can see this is local, so you can't actually get to it from outside. But this one is actually running on Mentalk local. So if I go to Mentalk local and I go 5010, Mentalk local. Oh, yep, and I go to 5010. I will get that version of the file. Maybe like this one is not actually serving the database, right? It is. It is, but I don't have the file. The database path is not there. Okay, so the database, you can't see the databases because I didn't copy them to this working directory. Maybe if I wanted to fix that, I'm not going to do this, but if I wanted to fix that, yeah, I did one. Then maybe what I would do is I would change this init, or I would change this program here. So this is like a little mini language that is part of. Right, so this is a mess, isn't it? So this is in YAML. This has a colon here, so it starts a dictionary. This is branches. So this is the outermost key, and this is an outermost key, and this is an outermost key. Inside of that, we have branches. These are all the branches to check out. Each one is mapped to the starting port of a block. Then there's another key called init, and this tells you what are we going to do when we first check out this repository. And so that's what gets run if it's a if it's a branch of the repository that is new. So if we said new branch, it's going to do that, and it's going to run get the npm install here. So there it is, executing npm install. And then once that's done, it runs Claude, and then you can see that it's running on yet another branch, which is 5110. And if I go here and I change this to 5110, it just happened to be 100 apart, but usually they're in increments of 10, and they just get assigned to whichever new increment of 10 is not open yet. And again, the thing doesn't exist, right? Right. All right, so I'll show you something. So let's say I didn't like that. I'm not going to set up the database, but you can see what it does. It says these programs are sorry. All right, so again, going back to YAML syntax, this one is a colon, and then the next line starts with a dash, saying that the contents of this key init is mapped to a list of items. Dash itself tells the YAML to do that, and so programs also is a list of items. npm install is the one that just ran, but now that ran when you checked out the branch. Now when you want to launch this tmux session, that's what happens in programs. Maybe it should be called tmux, I don't know. And so the reason it's in quotes is because the very first character of this is special. It kind of looks like maybe that, I'm not sure if you actually need the quotes, but whatever, doesn't matter. And so the idea is that the first character of this is something special. And so this is saying start a new session with Claude running, which is why we had Claude on the left over there. And then on the right hand side, start a new session. Sorry, not a new session. A new tmux window inside of that session. The session is going to be called new branch, or 5110/new branch. And then the window inside the session will be for the Claude, and then the vertical bar says split it vertically. and run git status on the right hand side. And this says start a new one of these tabs at the bottom, and we're going to run the two things. And so that's how that happened. And then if you do that, if you did this sequence of, the equivalent sequence of commands in tmux, you would be looking at these two, the two servers. But I don't want that. I want to be looking at Claude. And so you can also send a command directly to tmux, and that says next window, and that takes you to the it goes to the next tab down here. The next, these are called windows. And these individual things are called panes, right? Windows, and then the next layer up is the sessions. Right. Open Code AI is another one of these tools like Claude. It's actually something that works with all the different vendors. And it looks really, really nice. In fact, I'll run it here in a second. We say Open Code instead. So just to remind you what happened, if we go here and we press 7, that is the new branch. So this is what we got the first time we ran it, after we checked out the branch. Right. And by the way, this, you can see it's running on branch, new branch. So it checked out a completely new version of the system. It's in a new directory. Everything is fresh and new. It did get package lock.json because we ran npm init, and I should clean that up. But let's see what happens if I do this and I change the word Claude here to open code. Right, so now we'll do that again. So now I'm going to reactivate that session. And it says it already exists. And now do I want to restart it or just go back to it? If I say no, then we just get back to the session that we were already at. So it just said, okay, everything's fine, and just go back to where you were. If we kill this session, it'll bring it back. And hopefully, I believe, I don't know if this works or not. I didn't actually test this. But what it was supposed to do is if I kill these things, or if I go over, you can like join the window from one. What? Sorry. Well, okay, you can just like break these into 3. So we have 3 of these. I don't know what I was. Anyway, so it's supposed to remake the thing. I'm not sure if it actually does. Restart session, no. Okay, so it doesn't rearrange your windows. But I guess the way it decided to implement that was to allow you to restart the session. So if we say restart a session, it should put all those windows there, but instead of Claude, we should see this open code thing. Right? And of course, if you just manually want to change this to something else, you learn the keyboard, or you just click on it here. Oh, I'm in a modal dialog. So do you want to initialize this project? No,